So if you can understand what it is about the diet, about the lifestyle that's so important, you could actually take that woman in San Francisco and reduce her risk of breast cancer by a third.
Meet Dr. Jason Fung, a globally recognized expert in metabolic health and longevity. His groundbreaking research on fasting, nutrition, and chronic disease prevention has transformed the way we understand illness. But when it comes to cancer, Dr. Fung offers a striking perspective. While genetic mutations often take the blame, he reveals a silent contributor, one that we willingly put on our plates every single day. Ignoring it could be a costly mistake. But the good news? You have the power to change that, starting with your next meal. In this video, we'll uncover Dr. Fung's insights on how everyday meals can unknowingly feed cancer cells. We're not talking about obscure toxins or rare chemicals. This is about the common foods hiding in plain sight. But before we break down each of these 5 cancer-feeding meals, let's understand why this matters. Cancer doesn't just appear overnight. While genetic mutations are part of the puzzle, research now shows that metabolic dysfunction, chronic inflammation, and hormonal imbalances, especially elevated insulin, are deeply involved in the disease's development. The modern diet, filled with ultra-processed and high-sugar foods, doesn't just damage our waistlines, it may also feed abnormal cells and suppress the body's natural defenses. But before we continue, this content is provided for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider with any questions about your health or a medical condition. Now that we've understood how cancer grows in the shadows of our diets, let's shine a light on the 5 worst meals that could be silently fueling it, according to Dr. Jason Fung.
And the sugar is very, very dangerous to weight gain. And it's more than simply the amount of carbohydrates.
Sugary cereals are the first and most discussed food by Dr. Jason Fung in the development and progression of cancer, underlining it as one of the worst meals for those aiming to prevent the disease. They look innocent. A colorful box, a bowl of crunch, maybe even says whole grain on the label. But that morning bowl of cereal could be feeding more than just your hunger. It might be feeding cancer cells. Loaded with hidden sugars, these cereals spike your blood sugar and flood your body with insulin, a hormone that cancer cells can thrive on. And yes, even the ones labeled healthy aren't always safe. Dr. Jason Fung warns that sugar is the primary fuel cancer cells rely on. The reason? It's fast, it's abundant, and it causes insulin to surge. When you pour a bowl of cereal, especially ones with cartoon mascots or claims like honey glazed or frosted, you're not just raising your blood sugar, you're potentially creating an environment where cancer can flourish. Here's why. Cancer cells depend heavily on glucose for their growth. This concept is based on something called the Warburg effect, a discovery by Nobel Prize-winning scientist Otto Warburg. He found that cancer cells prefer sugar even when oxygen is available. A study published found that high sugar intake may accelerate tumor growth by promoting inflammation and feeding metabolic pathways cancer cells depend on. You don't have to give up breakfast, just reimagine it. Swap sugary cereals for a protein-packed meal like scrambled eggs with spinach or chia pudding with almond milk and berries. These choices are lower in sugar and won't send your insulin skyrocketing. Want something crunchy? Try homemade granola with no added sugar, just oats, seeds, nuts, and cinnamon. It's delicious and doesn't feed the wrong cells. Start your day fueling your body, not disease.
Sort of sugar is probably one of the very, very important things that we really need to lower because that really supports it. And it gets to how cancer develops.
For those looking to cut sugar from their diets, there are healthier alternatives that can satisfy cravings without promoting cancer growth. Stevia and monk fruit are popular sugar substitutes that don't raise insulin levels and have a low glycemic index. These natural sweeteners provide the sweetness of sugar without the harmful impact on insulin and glucose metabolism. Similar to sugar, carbohydrates are some of the worst foods for cancer due to their direct impact on glucose and insulin levels. Refined carbs like white bread, pizza crusts, And pasta dishes break down almost instantly into sugar in your bloodstream. And just like sugar, they cause insulin to spike, creating a feeding frenzy for cancer cells. What looks like a comforting, innocent plate of spaghetti could quietly be laying the foundation for something much more dangerous.
Those highly refined carbohydrates are going to spike up your glucose, which is going to spike up your insulin. And then, because the high insulin just takes all that energy and sucks it into storage, there's no energy left for you.
In fact, insulin is like a growth fertilizer. It tells cells to grow, multiply, and store energy. For cancer cells, that's a green light. And this isn't just theory. A study revealed that people with higher insulin levels had a significantly increased risk of several cancers, including colon and breast cancer. The researchers noted that chronically elevated insulin, often driven by high-carb diets, may promote tumor growth by accelerating cell division. Dr. Fung explains it this way. Cancer cells are metabolically greedy. They're like fire. They need fuel. And refined carbs are like dry wood soaked in gasoline. You may not see the flames now, but you're feeding the fire every time you reach for that sandwich or plate of creamy pasta. You don't have to ditch comfort food entirely. Just upgrade it. Instead of regular pasta, try zucchini noodles or chickpea pasta, which are higher in fiber and protein. Swap white bread for 100% whole grain or sprouted grain options. But even better, go for lettuce wraps or avocado-based open-face sandwiches. These swaps may help stabilize insulin levels and give your body what it needs, without feeding what you fear. To stay healthy, focus on whole, nutrient-dense foods instead of refined carbohydrates that don't spike blood sugar or insulin. But before we move on, if you are looking to dive deeper into the foods that can cause cancer and inflammation, be sure to subscribe to the Vitazen Health newsletter linked below. Each week we share expert-backed tips, delicious recipes, and actionable steps to help you live longer and feel your best, delivered right to your inbox. Let's move forward and discuss our next risk factor. Meals with high glycemic foods like rice are among the worst contributors to cancer growth as they significantly raise blood sugar levels.
Because every time you are eating, you're stimulating your insulin, which is giving growth signals to the cells, including the cancer cells, which love insulin. You look at a breast cancer cell, for example, has like 5 or 6 times the number of insulin receptors compared to a normal breast cell. They love this stuff. They love insulin. They love glucose. So therefore, you want to lower it. So eating sort of whole, unprocessed foods is important. That's probably the most important thing.
Dr. Fung's primary concern with high glycemic foods is their effect on insulin, a hormone that regulates blood sugar. Elevated insulin levels stimulate the growth of cells, including cancer cells. Over time, consistently high insulin levels, driven by frequent consumption of high glycemic foods, lead to insulin resistance, where the body's cells become less responsive to insulin. As a result, the pancreas produces even more insulin to compensate. This cycle creates an environment where cancer cells, already thriving on glucose, are fed an abundance of insulin and sugar, accelerating their growth. Moreover, insulin is a growth hormone. When levels remain high, the body stays in a constant growth mode, which may allow mutated cells to expand unchecked. This is why elevated insulin levels have been linked to an increased risk of cancer progression. One key study found that people who consumed high glycemic foods like rice had a significantly higher risk of developing colorectal and breast cancers. The reason? Chronic blood sugar and insulin spikes lead to inflammation, oxidative stress, and metabolic chaos, all of which can potentially fuel cancer cell development and spread. And the danger isn't just in large servings. Even a small bowl of white rice can trigger a rapid glucose spike, especially if eaten alone or with other carb-heavy foods. You may think rice is light, but metabolically, it could be heavy with risk. You don't need to ban rice from your life. Just choose smarter versions. Opt for cauliflower rice, which is low-carb, high-fiber, and surprisingly delicious when stir-fried with garlic and olive oil. Want something closer to the real deal? Try black rice or quinoa, which may have a lower glycemic load and more cancer-fighting antioxidants. Vegetables like broccoli, spinach, and kale are also low glycemic and rich in cancer-fighting nutrients. By adopting a low glycemic, nutrient-rich diet, individuals can lower their insulin levels and reduce the risk of cancer. Next on our list is processed meat, and it's really bad for our health.
People talk about meat all the time, but it's like there's a big difference between bologna and, grass finished beef sort of thing. There's a huge difference because one is jam packed full of chemicals and other crap, and one is just beef, right? And people have been eating beef for thousands of years.
You've heard that protein builds muscle, but what if some forms of it are silently breaking you down? That sizzling hot dog, pepperoni slice, or breakfast sausage might taste like comfort, but it could potentially fuel cancer cell growth. Processed meats, like sausages, bacon, and deli meats, are not only high in unhealthy fats, but also contain harmful additives such as nitrates and nitrites, which have been linked to an increased risk of cancer. According to Dr. Fung, the consumption of these processed proteins drives inflammation, disrupts the body's natural metabolic balance, and encourages the growth of cancerous cells. The key issue lies in the processing methods used, which introduce carcinogenic compounds that fuel cancer development. One significant concern is the formation of nitrosamines, compounds formed when nitrates interact with proteins under high temperatures, such as during grilling or frying. Nitrosamines have been identified as potent carcinogens that damage DNA and contribute to cancerous mutations. A pivotal report by the World Health Organization, WHO, classified processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen, the same category as tobacco. According to the WHO, consuming just 50 grams of processed meat daily, about 2 slices of bacon, may increase your risk of colorectal cancer by 18%. You don't have to give up meat, but go clean. Choose fresh, unprocessed options like grilled chicken breast, wild-caught salmon, or lentil-based patties. Want something quick? Try a chickpea salad sandwich or a boiled egg with avocado toast on sprouted bread. These meals may offer the protein your body needs without the chemical baggage. When in doubt, remember, if it's been cured, smoked, or comes in a vacuum pack, it's probably not doing your cells any favors. Hold up. Did you know inflammation is one of the biggest causes of cancer, heart disease, and aging? And most people are making it worse with what they eat. That's why I put together the Anti-Inflammation and Immunity Smoothie and Juice Guide. 80-plus science-backed recipes designed to stop inflammation, boost immunity, and help your body heal. Grab your copy now from the video description below. Our last cancer ally meal comes out to be fast food. Fast food is loaded with processed fats, especially omega-6 polyunsaturated fats. But behind the golden arches and crispy crunch lies a dangerous truth. Fast food may be more than just unhealthy. It could be helping cancer grow.
So in 1989, they were having evidence that eating a lot of these vegetable oils was actually very, very harmful. And a reanalysis by Ramsden in 2013 showed the same thing. If you actually look at all the polyunsaturated fatty acid studies and then break them down according to whether or not they contain omega-3s or omega-6s, because both are polyunsaturated, what you find in the top part there is that if you look at studies that primarily increase omega-6 fatty acids, so vegetable oils, you have an increased mortality.
Dr. Jason Fung highlights one of the most overlooked cancer-fueling ingredients: processed fats, especially those found in fast food. These include hydrogenated oils, reused frying oils, and artificial trans fats, substances that don't just clog arteries, but can potentially alter cell membranes, trigger inflammation, and disrupt insulin signaling. A study found that frequent consumption of fried foods, especially those rich in trans fats, may significantly increase the risk of prostate, breast, and colorectal cancers. These fats not only increase inflammation, but also promote insulin resistance, creating an internal environment that may encourage abnormal cell growth. Dr. Fung also points to the imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3 fats in the modern diet as a major problem. Traditionally, human diets had a balanced ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats, typically between 1:1 and 4:1. However, with the widespread use of processed vegetable oils, the ratio in many Western diets has shifted to 15:1 or even 20:1, favoring omega-6 fats. This imbalance is linked to higher rates of inflammation and, consequently, cancer development. Adding to this imbalance, the consumption of processed fats contributes to insulin resistance and disrupts cellular metabolism, a concept often referred to as metabolic dysfunction, which is believed to create an ideal environment for cancer cells to proliferate. Craving something satisfying without the damage? Try a homemade turkey burger on a lettuce bun, paired with oven-roasted sweet potato fries cooked in olive oil. Or go for a bowl of grilled chicken, quinoa, and veggies drizzled with tahini. These meals give you flavor and satiety, without the hidden cancer risks. The best part? You're not just avoiding something harmful, you're actively choosing meals that could support cellular repair and metabolic health.